What If? The Dragon That Changed Everything Part 4, Tensura Fanfiction, author, ErogonWolf. Link to www.wattpad.com, story, 359,083,431. The Dragon That Changed Everything. Rimuru XOC. A dragon floated through the infinite void, drifting into the very space where Veldanava was creating the world. Just as the creator put the finishing touches on his work, a deal was made. Seals were placed, and a new world awaited exploration. Eons later, a certain slime and his manas began to examine the void itself. Ciel discovered a mysterious door that Veldanava had sealed shut, viewing it as a challenge to overcome. However, unknown to her, the world beyond that door holds a power even stronger than her master. What chaos will be unleashed when the gate is finally opened? Chapter 11. Secrets and Promise. Deep underground, directly beneath the future kingdom of Falmouth, a massive cave lay hidden. It held centuries' worth of magisteel ore and hypocoot herbs that grew without the sun. Inside a protective barrier rested a dragon, 50 times the size of Veldora. He sensed an unfamiliar presence nearby. "Oh, a visitor at this time of night," said the dragon, looking at the fallen angel before him. "If my memory serves correctly, your name is Dino." "It is," said the angel, gazing up at the golden dragon with multiple wings. "Erogon, I have a question for you." Erogon, in his true dragon body, chuckled. "Ask away, primordial angel that has fallen from grief. Could you have saved them with your true power or not?" asked Dino. "No," said Erogon. "I'm guessing that Feldway did not tell the other angels what I told him." "What?" asked Dino. Erogon explained what Veldanava was doing at that moment and why he would not return for a few centuries. Notice: Erogon's Wolfsbane third seal has been released. Finally. That means Milam's rampage will be ending shortly, and it took less time than in the original timeline, said Erogon, looking up toward the ceiling. "What do you mean? It's been a week," said Dino. "In the original timeline, before my involvement, her rage would have lasted for about 10 days, said Erogon, extending his hand. "And she lost this." Erogon was holding the glowing soul of a baby dragon that had been in Milam's care. "What? How do you have that?" shouted Dino. "Divinity can do many things, and you know that," said Erogon. He reformed a dragon's body and placed the soul inside it. "I just saved the soul right after it was killed. Could you do me a favor? You want me to give the baby dragon back to Milam?" asked Dino. "Yes," said Erogon, "but I don't want you to tell them that I did this, because I sort of broke a time rule doing it." "A rule of time," said Dino. "I don't quite understand what you mean. In the far future, this dragon would be born from my actions. I just changed that, and now it changes some of the timeline events." "Okay, now I understand," said Dino, taking the baby dragon into his hands. "I will say it woke up near the battlefield and I saw it with observation magic." Erogon nodded his head as Dino started to leave. "Where does that exit go?" asked Erogon. "A small dwarf town that might grow into a mighty nation," said Dino, as 2 angels joined him to leave. "Well, I will have to move the door," thought Erogon. He used null magic to move the void door to the entrance of the cave as soon as Dino left. Outside, one of the angels spoke. "I guess he didn't want his real body being found." "Most likely, but if a human went in there, they would die in seconds," said Dino. "He probably didn't want to harm people unintentionally." Back in the cave, Erogon looked behind him. "Now, why did you hide from them, Veldanava?" Velda stepped out from behind a large pillar of magisteel ore. "Because I didn't want them to know that I was here," said Velda. "You have a fragment of Lucia's soul in your possession." "True, but claim this one last," said Erogon. "That way, you have an easy beacon to this world, and your daughter." Veldanava pondered the plan. "I see your point. Thank you." He vanished from the world to search for the other fragments of Lucia's soul. "Sorry, Velda, but this fragment will be the last one you get," whispered Erogon. He created a pendant to contain the fragment, placed the soul inside, and teleported it to his double resting in the ice palace. "Now my double won't wake up for a few decades, so it is time to see what my servants are up to." Chapter 12. Knight and Vampire. In the village near the Night Rose Palace, Artoria had become accustomed to village life and had lived there for 70 years. "I haven't sensed Master in 30 years. His double must be in that room Guy made in his castle," she thought. Still, that Valentine person has made many new races and they have ventured out into the world, yet he is still not satisfied. To me, it looks like he wants the perfect human, but that. How ridiculous, she said aloud at the inn. Did you say something, my lady? Asked the bartender. No, just seeing all the new races coming out to the Night Palace, said Artoria. It's like he is trying to make something unobtainable. Well, I heard that he is trying to make the perfect human, said the bartender. But they all had some form of problem to him. He doesn't know what humanity's perfection looks like, said Artoria. Their perfection is their imperfections. Isn't that a contradiction? Asked a villager who was listening in. That's how people are, said Artoria, taking a quick drink of ale. And how people work towards fixing their problems is what makes them perfect. Or in other words, for them to fix themselves in their own way. Like how we made this village for protection, said the villager. Artoria nodded. Well, I best be off, said Artoria, heading out the door. Those new houses aren't going to get done any quicker if I'm not there. Good luck, said the villagers in the inn. As Artoria started to head to the new construction area, a hand grabbed her shoulder. Hey, we need to talk, said a black-haired man. Oh, said Artoria. Ashley, what is it you want? I know you have been monitoring me for the past 20 years. Ashley sighed. I would like to invite you to the castle for a discussion with our lord. He bowed. You remember the last response I gave you, said Artoria, preparing to draw her lance. Suddenly, she sensed a new presence in the Night Rose Palace. That is interesting. Did he make a child of his own? On second thought, I would like to finally meet your lord, she said, surprising Ashley. Thank you, said Ashley. Then follow me. He began to walk towards the palace and Artoria followed behind. Within the Night Rose Palace, in Twilight Valentine's experimentation room, he had successfully created his own daughter. He said, she looks perfect, but only time will tell if she is. As the girl slowly woke up, she revealed heterochromatic eyes, the left being blue and the right red. I should give you a name, he pondered for a minute before answering. Luminous. Yes, Luminous Valentine. Thank you, father, said the now named Luminous Valentine. As she accepted the name, Twilight ordered servants to take her to her room to rest. He also received news that a guest would arrive in a few hours and ordered the parlor ready for their discussion. As Ashley and Artoria entered the Night Rose Palace, she was greeted by vampire maids and escorted to the parlor to wait for the master. Well, they do have decent manners for someone that views their creations as trash, Artoria thought, sighing as she took a seat. But I have a feeling that they're putting up an act. Twilight Valentine watched Artoria for many hours through a crystal orb, trying to get information by analyzing her. Damn, he said. Why can't I see her abilities or her strength? All I can see is her race is demigoddess. What the heck is that race? He sighed as he saw Artoria almost falling asleep in her chair. Well, best to greet her finally. As Twilight reached the parlor, one of the butlers opened the door. He finally felt the divine aura radiating from Artoria. Twilight was shocked by the intensity of the aura. He thought she was asleep, but quickly realized he was wrong. So, are you done trying to figure me out? Said Artoria. Yes, said Twilight. This is the first time we've met, but it feels like you have a bad opinion of me. I do, said Artoria. Your opinion of your creations is flawed. What do you mean? Said Twilight, annoyed by the statement. Please explain. I have known people like you, and people have differing opinions and views, said Artoria. An old colleague of mine had this view. If you view yourself or something as perfect, they have no more room to grow and adapt. They will become stagnant and no longer perfect for long. Now, do you see their point of view? Twilight pondered the quote she spoke. I see your point, but why do you think my thinking is wrong? Artoria sighed. I only stated my opinion on the matter. I only came because something piqued my interest. People like him don't understand that statement, she thought. Oh, said Twilight, drinking some red wine. And what piqued your interest? Your recently born daughter, said Artoria, and Twilight froze. She felt like someone I knew. If she wishes, we can be friends. I shall arrange a meeting, said Twilight. He gestured to a servant, who bowed and left the parlor. But that friend you spoke of, was it the same person that made that statement earlier? No, said Artoria, with a hint of regret. The person in question is a good friend of mine from my past. I see, said Twilight. I have a question for you. What is a demigoddess? Artoria smiled. So now he wants to know my evolution path. I was once a normal human, she said. Twilight stood up, enraged. That's bullshit, he shouted. No way a human can reach this level of power BEF. His voice was cut off by Artoria's aura. Let me continue, said Artoria, as Twilight sat back down. I was born with the essence of a dragon within me. Then I gained divine weapons that radiated holy power. As I was constantly bathed in their aura and power, I was slowly evolving into a divine being, but I stopped where I'm at now. She conjured her lance. Twilight backed away quickly. It felt as if the lance was causing damage just from its radiating strength. I see, he said as she put it away. Thank you for putting that away, said Twilight. What the hell? With that thing out, it felt like my skin was peeling off and my soul was being crushed just for being too close to it. The maid returned. I'm sorry, my lady, said the maid. Miss Valentine is still resting. She bowed. That is fine. I can come back later, said Artoria, starting to rise from her chair. Wait, you can stay in the castle as a guest if you wish, suggested Ashley, standing in the corner of the room. If that is all right with the master. That is fine with me, said Twilight. That way I can get more info about her. Fine then, said Artoria. Then can someone escort me to a guest room? Right this way, said one of the maids, escorting Artoria out. Everyone out, shouted Twilight. As everyone started to leave, he added, except you, Ashley. As soon as the last butler and maid left, he exploded. What were you thinking when you made that suggestion? If I wasn't keeping my appearance up, I would have hit you through the bloody wall. I made the suggestion to allow her to be easier to monitor, said Ashley, and if she becomes acquainted with the young miss, it will be an extra chain to pin her down. You're a fool, said Twilight. That lance was suppressed in that state, and if they do become acquaintances, she could threaten us with that lance, let alone her aura could kill. They both sighed at the merits and demerits of the situation. We will have to wait and see. Within the guest room, Artoria pondered what to do next. If my senses are correct, she is awake but angry that she was called to be introduced to me, but I can't understand where she's coming from. Maybe I'll use my universal sense to see how Master is doing. If memory is correct, Master said to close my eyes before using it. As she closed her eyes and opened them, they radiated a white aura, appearing golden with an unworldly hue. Her gaze alerted every powerful being from the heavens to the hells. She shifted her gaze towards the ice palace and saw the other servants but couldn't see her master. He's probably in the room that Master reinforced with our world's magic so nothing can see inside it. If all the servants were summoned, he must have used his divinity to do it quickly. That idiot, she muttered. She shifted her gaze to the Night Rose Palace. She looked through the castle and saw many things that made her sick to her stomach. I so want to kill him, but I was given orders not to, she sighed. She gazed into the princess's room. Well, let's see what she looks like. From what Artoria could see, she was a girl around 16 years old but with the mental age of a 5-year-old, pouting about not seeing her father and being called for a meeting after just being born. I see, said Artoria, canceling her universal sense. I have a plan. She turned into spiritual form and headed towards the kitchen. If I remember, the maids made roast beef with a blood gravy and roasted potatoes. As Artoria forgot she was in spiritual form, she spoke as a blonde high human passed by her. Who is there? Said the woman, preparing an attack spell. What is going on? I didn't detect anyone infiltrating the castle. In truth, I don't detect anyone in this hall but the maids that just left. Crap, I shouldn't say that out loud, thought Artoria. But she can't sense me in this state. That's some good info. Artoria left the hall into the kitchen and acquired some food that was prepared for consumption. What the? Said one of the maids in the kitchen. What's wrong? Said another. Well, the meal that Lady Valentine rejected is gone, said the maid, along with that guest portion. That's weird, said the other maid. Hey, some of the utensils are missing too. As both maids pondered the weirdness, Artoria was glad for testing her theory and started to head to Luminous Valentine's room. So anything I touch can be brought into my spiritual form, and since people in this world can't detect servants in our spiritual form, well, this will help us in the long run. She approached Luminous's door and passed on through. Within Luminous Valentine's room, Luminous herself was pouting. Why was I even born, she said. He gave me a name and he calls me his daughter, but why did he call me for meeting a guest of the castle? I don't understand. She smelled some food. Why do I smell food? She turned around and saw a girl with blonde hair setting up a table for 2 people with some meat and potatoes. As the girl turned to Luminous, her eyes were green as fresh grass. "Who? Oh, sorry for breaking into your room," said Artoria, "but I thought it would be better for both of us to eat together and chat without your father involved." "My name is Artoria Pendragon." Luminous hesitated for a moment, but her stomach got the best of her as it gargled. She felt embarrassed, but then walked towards the table, sat down, and started eating the meal. To her, it was quite tasty, but as her first meal, it felt cold. "Why is it cold?" she asked. Artoria giggled. "Well, it's what you rejected earlier today," she said, eating her own portion. "There are some things that are good cold. I came to see you, actually." Luminous tilted her head as she ate. "You seem to be a nice girl. A little naive about the world, but you have room to grow and become more comfortable with yourself." "You seem to have me in high regard," said Luminous, finishing her meal and starting to feel groggy from a full stomach. "But why? Let's just say you interest me, and your future," said Artoria. She didn't realize her universal sense was active, but not just hers. Her eyes were golden orange with hints of red. The skill time weaver was active from Erogon's skills, showing Artoria the future of Luminous as she fell asleep in the chair. "What am I going to do with you?" said Artoria, gently picking up Luminous, putting her in bed, and pecking her forehead. "Rest well. Notice, Luminous Valentine gained Rongamaniad's protection." "Wait," whispered Artoria. "Is Twilight that weak?" "No, she never had his protection at all." She sensed someone approaching the door and went into spiritual form. The door opened and Twilight entered the room and examined it. He saw 2 empty plates and Luminous asleep. "I know you're here," said Twilight. "I have already been to your room." Artoria reappeared between Twilight and Luminous. "What do you want?" said Artoria in a low but pissed tone. "I want to know how you did that," said Twilight, sitting at the table. And in detail. Chapter 13. Creating bonds while Luminous was sleeping peacefully. The tension in the room was so thick it was ready to be cut with a butter knife between Artoria and Twilight. "So, what is that ability you used to get around?" said Twilight in an annoyed tone. "Well, people like me can change their state of being, and you and your followers can't sense me while I'm in that state," said Artoria. "And the bad thing is, I'm not the best in stealth skills, from my master's perspective." "And your master is?" said Twilight with one of his eyebrows raised. "There are very few people that this person can call master, and I can only think of Lord Velda, but he's dead," and from her tone, her master is still alive. Artoria just smiled. "Someone you don't know, but you may have sensed his presence a few years ago when he fought Guy Crimson in Guy's territory up north." "Wait, I did sense that presence at that time and he was powerful," thought Twilight, but not strong enough for her to call him master. "You must be joking," snickered Twilight. "That man seems weaker than you by miles." "True, if that was his full strength," said Artoria. "What if I say it was only 2/5 of his power?" Twilight immediately stopped snickering and realized something. "I have something to deal with," Twilight said as he left the room. "You are welcome to stay, but if you get in my way, I will kill you." "You wish you could kill me, Twilight," whispered Artoria. "But you're far too young and weak to make that threat." She closed her eyes. "Well, time for my chewing out from Master." She allowed her mind to wander and found herself in a white void. Within the white void, Artoria saw a white table with some tea and snacks and a man sipping some tea. Artoria instantly recognized him. "Master, it's good," as her tone grew more like a person in trouble, "to see you." "Artoria, sit," said Erogon as she complied. "Now, I'm not mad at your decision. Even I was surprised at you giving someone protection." As he drank some tea, "I didn't even know that was possible, and it has opened a new path for that child, Luminous." "Then does that mean?" said Artoria as Erogon stopped her. "No, Twilight must die," said Erogon. "I am giving you a new charge." As soon as Artoria heard those words, she immediately knelt down. "Yes, Master, it shall be done." Erogon smiled and raised her head so her gaze met his. "My glorious King of Knights, your new task is to aid Luminous in gaining allies and supporters to help her run that country. You will aid her in the killing of her father and help her until you think she is ready to rule without your aid." "The time limit?" asked Artoria. "Until my full awakening," said Erogon. "Our dear Luminous is our 4th in my ceiling." The white void vanished as the sun's rays started to hit Artoria's face. She instantly felt a familiar feeling from Luminous, the starvation of a vampire. "Wait, she hasn't fed on blood yet," but in this state, she can easily drain a normal human dry. Looks like I have no choice. Artoria reduced her divinity away from her arm and cut that arm with her finger, which immediately alerted Luminous. She lunged. Artoria caught her with the injured arm and Luminous sunk her fangs in. Ouch, responded Artoria. You're all right now, Luminous. She started to soothe her as Luminous regained her senses. What did I? Said Luminous, scared about what she did. I'm so sorry. You're fine, said Artoria as she continued to soothe her. It's just a part of who you are and there's nothing wrong with that. Luminous looked up to Artoria. So, did you have your fill? Luminous just nodded. Now get cleaned up. One of the servants will be coming soon. Yes, said Luminous, walking to the room's bathroom. As Luminous walked to the bathroom to get washed up, Artoria's wound closed quickly. That took 15% of my blood. I was right to do this, but I hope that one thing doesn't occur like with the Curran family. A maid walked in and saw some blood on the floor. Are you all right, ma'am? Said the maid, getting a mop ready. Your master had that prepared in advance, said Artoria as the maid nodded weakly. Don't worry about it, the blood will vanish soon anyway. As she said that, the blood crystallized and turned to dust in the wind. Luminous washed up her face and thought she saw someone behind her. She quickly turned around and saw no one there. She turned back to the mirror and saw the person again. What is this? Some sort of memory from Artoria? As the man in the mirror was flayed alive and his skin grew back, Luminous felt every cut, every tear, and every inch of skin growing back. She collapsed from the shock and pain of it. Both Artoria and the maid heard the thud and rushed to the bathroom. They saw Luminous passed out in pain. Let her father know that she won't be attending anything he has planned for today, said Artoria, picking her up. And I request an audience with him immediately. Yes, ma'am, said the maid, rushing out of the room almost in a panic. Artoria did not realize her aura was flaring almost in a rage. After a few hours, Artoria's aura calmed down as Twilight entered the room. I have a question for you, Twilight, said Artoria as her aura flared concentrated a few millimeters around her body. Can memories be seen through someone's blood? Yes, but I usually toss them aside, Gah, said Twilight as Artoria grabbed him by the throat. If you knew that, you should have warned me about it, said Artoria. I still have a very strong connection to my master and his memory was transferred to her. She released her grip. She was forced to watch and feel a person being flayed alive and their skin grow back. Twilight gasped as he could breathe again. Why would your master have a memory like that? In our old world, he was falsely accused of being a traitor. To force him to confess, they flayed him like that for 5 days and 4 nights on repeat, said Artoria. Luckily, she only saw the first time it happened. I have already severed my connection to my master's memories so this won't happen again. When will she regain consciousness? Said Twilight, getting back up. Tonight, most likely, said Artoria. I will explain it to her. Hopefully, she can accept that. Twilight left the room with no concern for Luminous's well-being. Well, I will have the girl sent to her when she wakes up so she can feed. As he looked at Ashley, get that girl prepared for Luminous and a meal for that woman. Yes, my lord, responded Ashley. Do we have any counteractions against her? None that I have thought of yet, said Twilight, holding his neck. She radiates holy energy, but Luminous was able to feed off her somehow. I will find out how, said Ashley as he left to do his tasks. Artoria looked at Luminous in worry. Please work, she said as she began to cast a small memory seal on the memory Luminous had seen from Erogon. It succeeded with no issues. Oh, that's good. Oh, she is starting to wake and I already feel her hunger. Well, this time I'm ready. She lowered her divinity to that of a human saint. Unbeknownst to her, Ashley was watching through a hidden passage window. What the? Why would she lower her own divinity? Maybe to feed Luminous? If that is true, it will strengthen her considerably more than human blood. Luminous started to open her eyes and sensed blood nearby. She saw the outline of a woman with her veins showing. As Luminous crawled towards her, the woman assisted her to her neck. Go ahead, little one, said the girl in a soft tone as Luminous sank her fangs into Artoria's neck and started drinking her blood. Wait, is Lady Luminous craving blood at such a young age? But I thought she would be terrified of her blood cravings from that memory Artoria spoke of, thought Ashley, closing the window and leaving. I will keep this information to myself, it should be useful later on. After Luminous had her fill of blood, she backed off slightly and realized who it was. "Why do you do this?" asked Luminous as Artoria cleaned up her mouth. "Because I have a duty to uphold," said Artoria. "And one of those things is to get you stronger, and to help you. So, I should get subordinates and followers to defeat my father," said Luminous, and Artoria nodded. "You won't get those nasty memories from my master again," said Artoria. "At least for now. You have a long way to go." Chapter 14. Demon Lord Valentine. A few years have passed since Luminous first drank Artoria's blood. During that time, a human was given to her for food, but instead, the human was fed on but not killed and became a subordinate of Luminous. Artoria in earnest began teaching Luminous in the matters of the sword, etiquette, and managing a country. With the aid of Artoria and the human girl, Luminous was able to get 25% of the vampires to her side within a few months. Another 30% sided with her after Luminous's lessons were completed. In Twilight's lab, "What the hell?" he shouted, smashing a few beakers off a table. "How can she gain this much strength in this short of time?" "Ashley, what have you found?" "Nothing, my lord," said Ashley. "A lie," said Pippin. "Artoria has been purposely lowering her divinity to allow Lady Luminous to drink her blood." "Oh, Ashley holding back info," said Prelex. "That is a first. So you support that brat?" said Twilight, staring daggers at Ashley. "No, her view on humans is flawed," said Ashley. "They should be used in experiments and food and nothing more. Her taking one as a servant is proof enough for me not to support her." "Very well then," said Twilight. "What sort of plans have you come up with to kill Luminous, or separate them and then kill the brat?" "I have come up with a theory about Artoria," said Pippin. "Go on," responded Twilight. "If her connection with her master is cut off right now, then her magicule count should have been dropping for the past few years," said Pippin. "And I have noticed over the past few days that her movements in and out of training sessions have slowed down considerably. If her master is awake for long periods and then asleep for a good margin of time, then she might have to sleep soon. And when that happens, Luminous's great protection will be useless," said Twilight, grinning ear to ear. "Then I shall wait until then." Within Luminous's room, Artoria was resting in a chair as Luminous and her human servant, Yuki, were doing their normal feeding session. "I'm actually surprised, Yuki," said Artoria, "that you can change your state of being at will. Well, when you entered the palace, you still had a small essence of Erogon, which in turn awakened all of our group," said Yuki, as Luminous finished feeding. "And it looks like most of us can change how our aura and race feel to others. And since those little spies aren't around," Yuki expanded a small amount of her real aura, revealing a true vampire. "I mean, we weren't in Erogon's original plan. I mean, the entire Curran family was reincarnated here in the Night Rose Palace." "True," said Artoria, starting to nod off slightly. "I can actually rest with you guys here, but keep an eye on Rito. He might do something stupid." As she spoke, she finally fell asleep. "Sue, what is the real connection between you two?" asked Luminous as she cleaned up and started to eat a prepared meal. "Well, we were co-workers for a time," said Yuki. "Or something along the way of comrades." "Interesting," said Luminous. "But what about now?" "Well, I don't know," said Yuki. "I think it's like naming a monster here. But things were different in our old world. Well, no way to get back there." "What do you mean?" said Luminous, looking with anticipation. "Artoria's been telling stories, hasn't she?" asked Yuki. Luminous quickly nodded and Yuki sighed. "Well, both Artoria and Erogon have a unique skill that, when Erogon activated it, it wound up destroying the world." She quickly changed her tone of voice. "But Artoria's version of the skill is not as strong as Erogon's, her master." "Well, I just learned something new," said Luminous. "I just learned Artoria's master's name, but I didn't know that your world was destroyed by just one skill." "Well, we found out relatively too late that our world's stability was non-existent," said Yuki. "But Erogon did save over a few billion lives by taking them within himself and wandering the void. Then he found this world, and with the person that created this world's approval, he accidentally put all but a few souls into the cycle of reincarnation. That is how I got into this town as a human. Then Artoria came to town after you got into the palace, and when she came to the palace, you awakened to your real power," said Luminous, laughing. "That's hysterical. Now," said Yuki, turning back into her human-made form. "My lady, We should keep hidden the fact that Lady Artoria has started her slumber. True enough, said Luminous. She cast an illusion spell to make the chair Artoria was sleeping in, and Artoria herself, disappear. That should be enough. As she prepared to leave the room, she added, if memory serves, my father wants to see me. That is correct, my lady, said Yuki. And Zero and Konami are helping with the garden. They both giggled at the two being forced to work together. Let's get going then, said Luminous, heading to Twilight's study with Yuki following behind her. In a clearing a few miles away from the Night Rose Palace, 3 people were practicing their skills on emotionless monsters. 2 men who looked like brothers and a woman. All looked to be around 30 years old with red eyes and brown hair. Man, hunting these monsters is so boring, said one of the men. Isn't that right, Haruka? Not really, Rito, said Haruka. Just be glad that we can use our skills before fighting that true ancestor, right, Yuri? Yes, said the girl. Did you notice the barrier is weakening? I noticed it right away, said Rito. Looks like she is finally sleeping. I just hope no one attacks her, said Yuri. If that happens, then we will need to get Luminous away from her, said Haruka. I would have to agree on that, said Yuri. By the way, where is your wife, Rito? In a country named Bloomond, said Rito. She is with the other twin, Ichiru. Well, I'm glad she doesn't have to get involved with this, said Yuri. As all 3 headed back to the Night Rose Palace, Luminous finished talking to her father, sighed, and headed back to her garden in the courtyard. Within Luminous's room, Pippin detected some magic. This feels like vampire illusion magic, so she cast dispelling magic and revealed Artoria sleeping in the chair. Well, looks like I can get that blood sample. She pulled out a syringe and prepared to draw blood, but stopped short of breaking the skin as she sensed a massive amount of bloodlust from Artoria. What the hell? I have never felt this much bloodlust from anyone before, and now I can't even move. Her body felt heavy and she blacked out as she heard a voice. Well, what do we have here, said a man. Pippin stirred in a guest room. What happened? She looked around and saw a familiar face. What are you doing here, Ichio, and how did I get here? Well, I got you out of that room, said Ichio. If anyone else saw you, you'd be dead. Explain, she said. You fell under the effect of Artoria's skill. Inversion, said Ichio as he pulled out a coin. Think of Artoria as this coin. You are used to seeing the face side of her, but when she sleeps, her inversion skill is activated if she is attacked and the coin flips to the back side. And what, her bad side comes out, said Pippin sarcastically. Yes, said Ichio. I personally have never seen it, but I have heard rumors about it. Like one time when her dark side emerged, she destroyed half of a country on a mere whim. Holy shit, said Pippin as her face went white. And I tried to get a blood sample from her. So, are you allied with Luminous or not? I am not, said Ichio. My loyalty lies with the one that is slumbering far from here. Suddenly, a large explosion rocked the entire castle. Moments ago, in the throne room, Luminous and Yuki were walking down one of the side paths discussing random things as a high-level fireball came flying towards them. Yuki was quick to see it and knocked it out of its path upwards. She looked at who cast the spell. It was Twilight. Unbeknownst to them, some of the roof in Luminous's room was jostled and a small part, the size of a baseball, hit Artoria in the head. She grinned in an evil way. Why, Lord Twilight, said Yuki, holding her weapon in a defensive stance. Why attack your own daughter? You mean that failure, said Twilight. It's best to get rid of trash as soon as possible before it stinks. At the door of Luminous's room, Artoria was about to leave but was stopped by a presence. Master, what is it? She asked, looking at a shadow in the form of a man in a hooded robe. You will not get involved physically in this battle, said the shadow. And if I refuse, said Artoria. The man showed her command seals primed for use. I see. Fine. I will go back to sleep then. She sat back down, reverted to her normal form, and fell asleep. As soon as the shadow confirmed she wasn't faking, he disappeared. In the throne room, spells were being slung and blocked. Twilight focused mostly on attacking Luminous, and Yuki was focused on defense. You unworthy insect, shouted Twilight, you hide behind your maid. It's better to use all my resources than just jumping the gun, said Luminous, throwing some red destruction orbs that were easily dodged by Twilight. Unlike yourself, I have to admit, Father by himself is still a force to be reckoned with. I may have no choice but to use that technique Artoria taught me. Yuki. Right, responded Yuki as she slammed her rod into the ground and released a smokescreen filled with magic energy so even magic sense couldn't see within. Where is that brat? Twilight saw the smoke shift and used a blood whip to grab what was there. A girl was pulled out by the ankle. The maid. Where? Oh shit! From below where he pulled Yuki out of the smoke, Luminous dashed at him, one hand hidden until the last moment. She conjured Rongamaniad in the hidden hand and lunged, piercing his chest just below his heart. Ha! Always foul. He stopped as he saw a sword with a rose guard motif in Luminous's other hand cutting off his head. Damn, this stings, said Luminous as she released her grip on Rongamaniad. Her hand was burned by the holy energy as the lance started to dissipate, leaving a large hole in Twilight's chest. Where the lance touched his body, it was burned beyond repair. I guess divine weapons can do this much damage, but why not to myself? Ha 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 ha, laughed Twilight. You don't realize what you have. As his body started to crumble into ash, he added, Now, I do pity you. His head turned to ash. Within the ice palace, Guy, Ramirez, Velzard, Milam, and Elena were drinking tea when they sensed something. Feels like someone died, said Elena. Yeah, said Guy. It looks like that fool died, and that new strength is interesting. Oh, then I'm going to see who they are, said Milam, but she was stopped by a hand on her shoulder. She saw Elena in an annoyed mood. Not until your writing lesson is done for today, said Elena, with the attitude of an instructor who gets ignored quite often. But I already did that yesterday, remarked Milam. That was yesterday, and your handwriting is still horrible, shouted Elena. You have improved over the years, but sometimes your writing is illegible. She started to drag Milam out of the room as Milam began to complain. I feel slightly bad for her, said Velzard. But it will help her in the future. Isn't that right, Erogon? Guy and Ramirez looked behind Velzard and saw Erogon walking in, yawning. Yeah, said Erogon, stretching his arms. Man, I hate using that skill. Oh, which one is that? Asked Ramirez with curiosity. Astral projection, said Erogon, sitting down as Rain poured him a cup of tea. I had to stop one of my servants from interfering with an important event. I have never heard of this projection ability, said Ramirez. Can you explain it? If you have a soul connection to another, you can easily restore them, but there are a few other functions of that connection, said Erogon. The function I speak of is to project your soul to a location where the other person can see you, relate information, and see around them. Can other people sense you in that state? Asked Guy. If not, then, if they have a high enough stealth skill or high enough perception, they might see it, but it will look more like a small haze, said Erogon. But if the person can naturally see souls, they can naturally see you in an astral projection. So, said Velzard, if someone can see the souls of people, they can see the projection when it's active. After a few days, the Night Rose Palace finally settled down from the chaos of Twilight's death. His 3 followers, Ashley, Pippin, and Prelix, left the palace in disgust and started going by the group name Trinity Wiseman. Luminous was resting in the garden in Artoria's lap with bandages over one of her hands, the same hand that held Rongamaniad. You idiot, said Artoria. I warned you about using my lance, as you are of the vampire lineage. Your hand will take a few years to recover. But at least I evolved, said Luminous. But I still can't believe I became a demon lord and a true vampire. She looked at the bandages. But I didn't understand until you told me about your protection why mine and my old man's wounds were so different. After a few minutes, Artoria sighed. Yes, my protection gives you resistance from any holy energy that is from me or anyone using my name, along with my lance. It also lets me know where you are, and if you're in any danger, I can immediately teleport to you if I deemed it necessary. Luminous immediately sprung up. So you could have been there when I fought my father, she said, sounding annoyed before realizing something. Or did someone stop you from aiding me? Artoria just nodded. My master told me not to get involved in the battle more than I already had, or he would be forced to take measures to stop me. Measures, said Luminous, her head tilted. Well, with my master, there are 2 categories of people who are connected to him. One is subordinates, and the other, which I belong to, are servants, responded Artoria. I will explain it another time. We have a guest. Hey, let me go, shouted a girl's voice. A man with brown red hair and red eyes carried a girl with pink hair over his shoulder. You're no ordinary vampire. My lady, said the man. This girl was going to land in the garden, so me and Zero stopped her before she could. Thank you, Konami, said Luminous. You can leave her here. Konami placed the girl on the ground and released the restraints on Milam. Dang, your subordinates are strong, said Milam. For that, I must correct you, said Luminous. They're not mine, but they're willing to assist me at this time. Oh, said Milam. Hey, do you want to become a demon lord? What do you mean by that? I already evolved into a demon lord. Milam grabbed Luminous's hand and pulled her up. I mean a demon lord with a title. Let's go. Milam took off, dragging Luminous with her. Artoria, cried Luminous, but she saw Artoria waving her hand and mouthing, have fun. Not cool. Milam and Luminous took off.